for CB12. Here we go. And guys, content. Okay, great. Hannah, raised hand. What's going on? This is kind of like an open part. This is the call to order, and now this is the welcome. So we'll make this the welcome. Yeah. Hannah, what's up? I think I gave you permission to speak, but let me know if you're not able to. I can ask you to unmute.
Is she an applicant?
I don't know. Usually applicants have to be in person. Is your speaker on?
I just removed from audio. I'm just gonna.
Just yeah, I would probably. There. Hey.
I just left.
We're living in tag. Just had to mute your speaker or your microphone sometimes, but that happens to me all the time. Hannah, can you speak? Wait, are you in the chat here?
I'll
Oh,
be able to see the people. Isn't there a way, Ebenezer? Isn't there a way for us to connect it to here or no?
Oh, you're giving my back.
she
So that we can
she
see
left
the
the
people on
Zoom
the
actually, so
screen?
she might have had. Wait,
Issues too.
she's still on here, but she's not in the guest list. Wait, Hannah, can you hear us?
So I was telling Valeska that, about the regulations, and she's like, yeah, they just get changed every different week. So I was like,
Oh
will
yeah,
you be
they
able to-
real do.
You guys, we can create like a group or email every week, and I will give you updates.
Oh,
Really?
that would be
I think-
excellent. That would be incredible.
And I'll send you all the licenses, so you have to review. So it's only micro businesses and retail.
Right.
So I can give you all this step by step of what they need and things like that.
Can you
How do
just
you
send
like to
us
do that?
right
Like, how
now?
do you like to do that? Do you like to do WhatsApp? Do you like to do email? Like, what's your
I
preferred?
think email will be best because you can
Email?
download documents.
Sure, I can make a
So-
little listserv like for
Correct.
us, where it's just like
So
an email like
You have my
cannabis at
email.
CB12. Yeah, and I'll give you a listserv so it sends it out to every stakeholder on the
Absolutely.
committee.
Yeah.
I'll make sure
would
that
be
happens.
incredible.
Hannah, you're back. Wait, are you? Yes. Can you hear us? Can you speak? No. All right.
Ariel Seller.
Are we allowed to talk? Here we go. Let's try this. How about now, Hannah?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got
Hi,
you.
thank you so much for having me.
Yo.
I just want to start by saying I joined a group of parents. There's a large number of parents that are turning to cannabis to help their children. Some of us were using the medical grade, and some of us were just using what you could buy from a store. And I've done both.
Mhm.
And I found that it is tremendously like life and death changing for my daughter, who has like severe like meltdowns. And when she's on a good dose of THC, she's actually very lucid. She can read. She gives people good eye contact. So it does
Wow.
something completely different to her and a number of other autistic young people that I know. I know the parents of, and I know the children, the young people, and it's all, there's a large push from even states like Texas. There's a family with a daughter just like mine. They actually went to the Senate to request that more research be done because there it's prohibited, and the father is risking going to jail just to give it to his daughter, because otherwise she punches her own face so hard where she's like bruised completely. My daughter does the same thing. So THC, CBD, like all the different chemicals that are in there, somehow they're extremely beneficial. So I would love to start a business to make it more available to parents of adults, because a lot of these kids, we call them kids, but they're over 18, so they legally can consume. But there's no special store that actually knows what to advise the parents. Say my child can't sleep, so then use this one. If they have no appetite, use this one. If they're having meltdowns and attacking people, use this one, and then they become a friendly, nice person. So or at least different trial and error. Like obviously no one's a doctor, we can't give advice, but we can just say to anecdotal evidence, like other parents have found this helpful. You decide for yourself what to do, because we're not doctors.
Well,
But
thank you
I do
for
want to
kicking off
start
the
that.
welcome. Thank you so much for
What?
kicking off the welcome
Yeah.
to the meeting, because you bring up a couple great points that we've been talking about and we'll continue to talk about when it comes to marijuana uses and its introduction to Northern Manhattan. First and foremost, certainly the medicinal uses from like a naturally sourced type of honestly, it's an asset. I really see marijuana as an asset when it comes to the health uses of it. so many opportunities that we're about to unlock in this community now that it has been legalized in New York State. And to your point about from a federal perspective, unfortunately, still a class 1 drug. So we have all these things that you just mentioned that are illegal against it. But with organizing like this community board, with the recognition from the state, we're going to be able to have these conversations in a city-sponsored manner. The community board is an official wing of the city volunteer government. And so I'm really glad that you're here. I really appreciate, from like a welcome testimonial perspective, your point of view. I really hope that you continue to join us. Oh, she's gone again. It's okay. You can always watch the recording. I really hope you continue to join us, because these are the kind of conversations we're going to have. Let's continue with this welcome. I honestly think, conversation early is a good welcome. So let's just jump into it. Tatiana, what's up? Thanks for joining the Cannabis Task Force meeting.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Awesome. So I am from Inwood Academy for Leadership. It's a K to 12 charter school. I am a little concerned because of cannabis use in children. And so I connected with the Opioid Response Network, and they actually offer workshops from the medical perspective. They are the helm of research with the Boston Children's Hospital, and they are offering workshops to let parents know that though it may seem at first that is helpful, there are several myths that around it and what it can do. But they have done a lot of research in brain development, and the reason why it is not recommended for children, even up to 24 years of age. And so I just want to bring that up because it is addictive, and it has a lot of effects on the brain. Is not the same on a developing brain as on a regular brain. And just to give an example, if you have a little seed and to that little seed, you start having a little plant forming, and to that little plant that is just budding, you pour acid on it, then it's gonna kill the plant eventually. But if it is a well-grown plant, and you pour the same amount of acid, it's not gonna really affect the plant that much. So that's the difference. So a developing brain, what it does, that I learned through these doctors, and again, what it does to the brain development, the adolescents are at risk, and it affects the growth of neurons in the brain, and I do think that parents should be aware of that, because they do have effects that make it feel and look like it's working, but you don't see the effects on the brain, and it does.
I appreciate that information, and honestly, it's so early in the commercial usage of cannabis that these kinds of conversations are certainly healthy, and also this kind of information and knowledge is good in a public forum to discuss. So first and foremost, I really appreciate you bringing this up, especially in comparison to Hannah, who just spoke. A couple things here. First of all, I'm certainly not a doctor. I work in marketing. I'm not that kind of guy. I do not have a degree in so I'm not going to speak to the health benefits or what have you to it. That being said, I can guarantee you this. In the course of our task force over time, again, we're first Mondays usually of every month at 6:30. This is a weird time because of New Year's, of course. This is a really good point you bring up. We should bring in doctors, have that kind of conversation, the experts, in front of us, and ask those kinds of questions. That's what our committee, that's what the community board should do, is bring like those kinds of thought leadership in to have those conversations, because I mean, I'm not sure if you're a doctor. I'm certainly not, but you have a great point, and I'd love to hear it from them. So let's do that. Does that sound like
So
a pretty good idea?
we have one of them scheduled for January 8th, and I can share that information with the Opioid
That would be
Response Network.
amazing. Please.
January 8th at 6:30, and I can share the link with everybody so that families can hear all about it. Now, we did about cannabis use before. This one is about vaping, because
Mhm.
vaping is another way that kids are being they're seeing like normalize vaping around our community, and the harms again on the brain.
Mm.
So, but I mean, it's not related. It can touch a little bit on cannabis, but again, it's mostly nicotine because of the vaping.
Sure.
But again, I can
And
totally
and that's a
connect
really
you with the
interesting
Opioid
POV.
Response Network, because I'm concerned as a parent to have so much of these smoke shops that sell illegally cannabis
Mhm.
and around schools.
Mm.
And there are multiple around. And I talked with
Really quickly, because we actually tackled this in a couple meetings ago. So certainly I would say take a look at YouTube where we talked about this really quickly. A lot of the illegal gray market smoke shops that you see are exactly what you said. They are illegal. That being said, you know, and you can look back through the archive of our community board meetings here. They do serve a purpose in a way before we're able to roll out through this meeting legalized retailer and micro businesses in our neighborhood that are fully regulated and, you know, work with our government expenditures, OCM, Office of Cannabis Management. So the gray market, they were or are a product of a very particular time period when the state law became legal, and when it's now being applied in local markets. You're going to start to see these go down. Your second point, when it comes to schools, I believe in the legal framework that we have as a community board, which we've said you cannot be a dispensary within 200 feet of a school. Is it 200 or 500? 500 feet from a school. Thank you. So with a legal shop, you cannot be within 500 feet of a school. For the businesses that come in front of our board that then get our endorsement to actually become a business, and supposedly we have 3 today. We have 2 today, sorry. I don't see 2 people here to do that. So usually that would happen, but we'll talk about that in a second. That's another piece of our agenda. But in the application process we are very clear that you need to be 500 feet from a school. That is also the case for liquor, I believe, when it comes to bars. Yeah. So we're applying that same thing. So just wanted to add a little bit of information. If you're interested in that, I highly suggest taking a look at our last 2 meetings. They're very quick looks, about an hour each. Very good stuff on this particular conversation. But I do want to move the agenda. Being a volunteer network here, of course, I try to get folks out before dinner time. So we're going to say that's the welcome. Ariel, I see you're new to the meeting here. I want to give you a second to say some words as well, if you'd like to introduce yourself and say hello.
Hi, hello. Can everyone hear me?
Can.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting this meeting. My name is Ariel Sello Holdberg Smith. I am the Health Equity and Literacy Program Officer at the CUNY School of Public Health on 125th. And I actually am a District 12 resident, though. So
yeah.
Yes, yeah. But I just wanted to share with you all some projects that we have been kind of conceptualizing and working on around legalization.
Yeah.
And
Let's do it.
Yes, I would love to open that conversation. So it's kind of twofold. The first aspect is a mapping project. So that is working on developing a comprehensive community mapping tool, which draws upon the community needs assessments, research, and community canvassing to understand the impact of cannabis prohibition as we navigate legalization in a way that really emphasizes holistic solutions. So identifying both the protective and the risk factors experienced by communities disproportionately impacted by the drug war, as well as understanding community perceptions via a survey, which is the second part. But we also work with graduate students from the CUNY School of Public Health and Health Policy on this project. So tentatively, timeline-wise, what we're looking at is building out this community perception survey over these next 2 months of January and February, trying to get those translations together, and preparing to hopefully launch by March, sharing with community partners to share with their folks, tabling, newsletters, collecting and organizing that data over March and April, but then also doing some mapping and canvassing of those priority locations. I know that this actually kind of segues from the previous conversation, but identifying locations such as schools and daycares, houses of worship, drug treatment centers, liquor outlets, shelters, affordable housing, and kind of mapping out those protective factors that the community has, but then also considering when legal shops are open, like where are the viable locations that those can actually exist, and kind of looking at how our community is mapped out, and then hopefully compiling that data from both the mapping project and also from the community perception survey around like what are the perceptions around cannabis use and legalization and dispensaries, all of that, and hopefully getting that into a report by May, which I mean, we could absolutely talk about what dissemination could look like.
Aggressive timeline.
Yeah, so
I love it.
So this is like a qualitative, quantitative psychographic study you're trying to get done within 3 months.
Right. I'm like, that's aggressive.
First of all, I got a lot of things. Number one, why are you not in this room with us right now? Because you need to be down here and have this open conversation with us face to face, because this sounds amazing.
Yes, I would love
So
to.
if you're in 12,
California.
Wait, you're in California?
I am. I'm visiting family. So I literally come back tomorrow. So this is
Come next month.
We'll definitely come next month.
But yeah,
first Mondays of every month, come on down. That's number one. Number two, when you say community mapping, first it sounded like a real estate deal, but I understand that's level of it. It's one level of it. We've had a lot of conversations about real estate in the last couple of meetings we've had, in terms of where dispensaries are, the business of getting a rent or a lease, in this area as a marijuana dispensary or micro business. We've had a lot of those conversations here. 2 or 3, I guess. I'm with 2 of the most well-educated folks in our CB12 here right now. I'm with Vanessa and Valeska. Yo,
That's my sister's name.
Whoa, that's wild. Like legit.
alert.
Have you guys heard of this study? Because it sounds like right up both of y'all's alley too. So that leads me to my 4th question for you, Arielsla.
Yep, Arielsla.
Arielsla, thank you. That leads me to my 4th thing for you is, what types of folks have you been talking to for how long to get to this point where you're about to go into the field?
Yeah, so because we are based in Harlem, the school is, we have started doing this project already with community boards 9, 10, and 11. But our goal is to really service Upper Manhattan. And again, me being a resident, I'm like, this is something that I think would be helpful to expand. And so we've begun having some conversations with folks from Community Board 12. I spoke with Samari recently.
Yeah. She's right over here.
Hey. Hi. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you part of Deborah Levine team?
Yes. I work with Deborah Levine. Yes.
This week, and then tomorrow I'm going to be part of the webinar that you guys have.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes. So I'm kind of like involved a little bit. I just heard from the organization last week, or 2 weeks ago. I don't know what day it is. At the general board meeting at the Community Board 9. And yeah, they have a lot of initiative and to educate the community about what cannabis have impacted, what are the best areas, or what are the space that we have, because we don't have a lot of space, but you need to consider that you have schools, what houses worship, and things like that. I will be in more detail after the meeting with Deborah, but we're in contact.
Great.
I work for Cannabis NYC, so I also offer my service with to Deborah, and we want to collaborate with you guys.
This is amazing. For the areas that you've already done this, is there a completed study that you've already done this?
So there is, again, we've been working with the students on this, and so there is already a framework built out. So there is data that we have already gathered. There's like visual maps that we've put together as well.
For like CB9 and stuff like that?
Yes.
Are they using it? Are they applying it in their meetings or in any government conversations?
Yes,
They are.
they have a project called,
The community board?
yes, it's called the Cannabis Corner
What?
Education Mod, yeah. So they're, uh-huh, and they're working with them. So I went there and this is why I
Definitely
learned
learn.
from
With
it.
Miriam?
Wow, okay.
Miriam?
Mhm.
Yeah, Miriam and Monique are fantastic.
Correct.
This is
So,
great to know.
so, I also met with the cannabis task force, and they're incredible as well. They have all
Dude,
this
CB9
knowledge.
has their stuff tight, I know.
Yes, and it was like an applicant there. They didn't have their things together.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't know that applicant has the legal shop in front of the place that he put us
Trying to
on there.
legalize it.
Correct.
Sure.
So, but we don't know because the law change
Yeah.
every week or
Yeah.
every 15 days. We don't know if it can apply and things like that.
And so Tatiana as well, this kind of speaks to something that you were bringing up too. Since this is a dynamic, evolving law, very complex, but also very sophisticated in the way that it was created, it does change quite often as there's feedback given back to our legislatures and our local city officials and stuff. So things will be evolving, and the dust is kind of in the air right now, and it's going to take years for it to settle. But processes and community boards like this is how we're getting there. So that's really, all of this is really good to know. I don't know how it's all going to come together yet for us at CB12, but this is really just good to know and just kind of have on the radar. Thank you, Arielzela. Let me continue to move the agenda really quickly.
Of course, thank you.
So we're just going to call that a little bit of the reintroduction to the Cannabis Task Force. As I tell folks, since we are a very new community board committee, I want to just always make sure that we start with our mission statement, at least for the first few meetings. And that is, we're here to have a public forum and an open conversation about the introduction of the cannabis retail, business, and consumer usage in our area. And in that way, all views and conversations here are welcome. And there's a bunch of veteran community board members here on this committee. I've been on the community board for the last 6.5, 7 years. Previously vice chair of Parks and Cultural Affairs for a few years, overseeing all the parks in Northern Manhattan. So, there's a certain level of institutional knowledge we have here in terms of pushing agenda through the community board and out. So we're certainly here, on the side of the people to make sure that your voices are heard and we can evolve our process, for our local community. So that's like really that in the previous conversation we just had. I just want to use that as our reintroduction to Cannabis Task Force on our agenda. Our next item, which is item D, re-review of the application process. So, I've got veterans here in the room, but a bunch, 2 new folks here on the call, 3 new folks here on the call. So let me just give you a quick summary on the process by which retail or micro business cannabis businesses bring their business in front of our board to thereby get a stamp of approval, if you will, not only from our committee, but eventually the general board, which is 50 members. We would vote on approving this business in our neighborhood, even though it's not an official yay or nay, if you will, to coming in the neighborhood. Unlike liquor licenses are, where if it's not approved by the community board, you do not get a liquor license. It doesn't work that way with cannabis. Now, that being said, the community board is a major factor in the review of having a cannabis license for micro business or retail business in our Northern Manhattan district of CB12, but it's not a requirement. So I want to be very clear about that. That's the first piece. The way that business is open, because I believe Tatiana, I think Hannah was talking about this earlier, I believe. She keeps going off and on, so unfortunately she might miss this part unless she looks at the video. But the way that people actually apply is when a business signs a lease in our area, and you have to have a lease, you then email our office Our office will then email back to you, and very timely. We have a very good professional office here. They'll email back to you the application, and we'll go through that application and some of the updates we're going to make in a moment. They'll email you the application. Once the business owner gets the application, they fill it out with their lawyer or themselves or what have you, and they send it back. Well, they mail it back to the office. That's very important. It's not email, it's mailed. Certified mail, exactly. Thank you. Certified mail. So that way there's a record of it, and it has to be received within, I think, a week or two of our meeting, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks of our meeting, right? Because that's to give the office time to get the package together, get it to us on the committee to review, and then we have our meeting. That's the second part. The third part is our meeting, and that's what we have today. And in front of us, as I said, we had 3 applicants. 2 are ready, but I do not see those applicants here yet. And so if they don't show up to the meeting, they're not getting reviewed. That's pretty, right?
So
Shoot.
Happy Monkey is here.
Oh,
Okay.
you're on this?
Vladimir Bautista
Vladimir
LLC.
is.
Yeah,
Vladimir, that's the,
he's on his way,
oh, but you're here for the
but
company.
I'm here, I'm
Oh,
here.
yeah,
but
okay.
he will-
So then
he will be here.
There's 2 not
Yeah,
here.
yeah, he
And
will be here.
of course, he was here last time too.
No, Ramon was here.
Ramon was here
That's
last time.
Vlad is.
Thank you. Got it. Well, if I saw Happy Monkey, then it would have been different. But there's 2 that are not here out of the 3. And so when it comes to that, just like liquor, we highly recommend if you'd like to have your application reviewed by a community board, you need to be here in person because you need to be here to take questions from the public. Full stop. That's it. Them not being here, basically, we have to push this to February, which is actually fine. Because now here's the fourth part. Once you get the application from us, you also have to post the meeting when you're being reviewed in your window of that place for the public around you to see. So this kind of gets to something that Tatiana was talking about before when it comes to gray market. And we already talked about the gray market, so not to go through that again. But some of these places that are opening up that are illegal are not within the regulation by which our community board and OCM has provided for legalized retail and micro businesses. And so within this posting, they have to post for 60 days that there's a meeting coming up where they're going to be reviewed by this current task force. Remember, every first Monday, it's 6:30 of every month, except for when we're on recess. When they do that, they are then eligible to be reviewed by our community board. And so that gives people in the local area time to put on their calendars to come down and be in person when this business owner is here taking questions. So those are the basic steps of how a business will apply to our community board and be reviewed. Have I missed anything, y'all? I mean, I got way more smart people here than me, so like they always have my back. Have I missed anything that I should mention in that? It's a good summary.
Yeah.
So there is a process, folks, and a lot of like I will tell you right now, there are no legal micro businesses nor dispensaries in Northern Manhattan right now. None of them have come before the board. There are no licenses out there. So the ones that you see eventually will probably be shut down as more legal ones come in within regulation. So I definitely want to tell you that we're seeing that in CB9. We're seeing that in other places. There's a crackdown from the NYPD on the gray market once legalized places start to come up because we have places to fill demand.
In order to get rid of them, we need
Exactly.
legal ones. So if we
Exactly.
don't have any legals, how can we say anything about
Push out.
the
Exactly.
So this is why it's so important to have the legals around and follow all the rules and regulations that they established.
And that's what we're here for. So Tatiana, if you ever walk by a place and you see a posting up there in 60 days, on this date, we're going to be coming in front of the, CB12 Cannabis Task Force to, with our application, I highly recommend you come to the meeting because you'd be able to ask them questions directly of the business owners. That's a check that we have here and that we really value. Cool. So within the agenda, just moving the agenda, that was the first part of the re-review of application process. We just spoke about the address the lease requirement update, where you have to have a lease in order to bring the business in front of the board. And now I see we have our first applicant actually come in here, Vladimir Bautista. And with that, tell me, Samardi, because you're on the liquor committee, right? To approve liquor license.
Yeah.
This is our first time doing this, folks. How do we do this? Does the liquor license folks bring in the packet, or like How do we review the application?
So usually we have it sent out by the board,
Okay,
to us via email, or they have a printout here.
got it.
I see like the notice to municipalities, so I don't see the questionnaire. That's what I was like, I'm not going crazy. Like you see this notice to municipality, do you have the questionnaire?
No.
They don't,
we
so they
didn't-
haven't received it, which is what
Okay.
I'm telling you, Nobles, that we're not reviewing that.
Welcome.
We received notice from Paola. yeah,
Okay,
right?
good.
That our notice of municipality was received by you all and that we would be reviewed by the board.
Once
February,
Right,
right,
right.
because the posting also needs to happen.
Yeah.
Well, this is like a preliminary.
Right.
Yeah, I just.
They haven't received
That I
it.
was like.
What a gift.
No.
Yeah,
Well, we have to send them the questionnaire, so
Okay.
that's the part that, and then
Yeah.
when they receive
And
it,
then
and they
review it
have.
in the meeting.
now is this for the micro business application?
No,
Oh, this is for the retail application, which is easier.
Yeah.
Fantastic, so you can
But
get
we need
the
to figure out
current,
which one of the other ones are, we have a
There is
micro,
one micro and
There is
then
one
but
another
they're not
micro.
here.
but they're not.
Yeah.
So like, this is the folk, I mean, hey, it's easy, it's retail. So what we can do, one, we can certainly send you the application if you haven't received it yet. Absolutely, we can do that tonight.
Well,
The question.
The
it'll
question,
come- Are we gonna send it, or I
No.
think it comes from them? so
Either
it's
way.
up to them.
I'll CC him if we have to.
Yeah.
And then, where's your location?
It's,
151 Dykeman.
Cool. Is there like so for liquor, for instance,
Yeah.
is there like an official thing that they print out? Like, do we have to make one of those for posting?
So this is what I need to get clarity, like on the public notice posting.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing like on the.
On their
FAQ,
website.
Like the OCM says, like they don't have to, like there's no language in like
In
the
the
law,
law,
right? That
requires
doesn't
them
have a
to do
public notice.
posting.
They don't have-
They don't have to have.
It's just notice.
So we can put like a sign that says weed here?
So,
Correct.
yeah, no.
Because it's
Uh-uh.
part
It's
of
just
the
notice to
application.
us.
So we make it then. Yeah,
We could have it as.
we'll
a
have an
requirement,
email,
like,
yeah.
for-
We'll email
for
it with the
licensing.
applications from here on
Yeah,
out.
for
I'll
the
make
lic-
something on my
Yeah,
computer.
for the SLA, like the liquor license,
Sweet.
we make it a requirement as part of the
I'm
application.
gonna jump on Canva, I'll make a little ditty, I'll send it over to you guys with the application
Yeah.
and then just throw it up on a window so people know the February meeting when we're gonna be reviewing your application.
Yeah, like our due diligence has
Find
the
the one
community.
that we used for CB12 for our Brooklyn location, for Ramon.
Oh, wow.
There's one.
Yo,
for-
that would be hot. I would love
Yeah.
to,
I'll-
yeah.
I'll show that
Cool.
to you.
And then, yeah, aside from that, also I wanted to come because I just want to get inclined with the community, with the neighborhood, see
that.
how we can
Nice.
assist, see how we can help,
And that's why we're here,
part of
man.
the Solution, not the problem. You know, we just don't want to show up that they will open. We want
Yeah.
to see how we could already be proactively
Yeah.
trying to figure out how we can help the community. How we can.
It's the early stages. And actually, this is a good point you bring up because our next piece on the agenda here, since we are not reviewing an application today, folks, so just a quick edit of the agenda. Public notice, a couple other things. We're reviewing our applications in February. So good thing for the two folks that have other businesses in front of us that are not here. February, I'll see you then, here first Monday. Next part of this agenda is the application update. So maybe this is a good point to go back over our agenda, our application. Since you're here, we've done that in the first meeting. We went over the application. I think we did it in browsing in the second meeting. We can kind of do it in browsing and then also kind of, oh man, I'm not even sure if I have it on here. This is your personal computer?
We don't have,
Uh,
we don't have the updated one yet.
No.
That's okay. We can still show, because
I have
honestly, the one that
from
we,
August.
yeah,
like that
well,
was-
the
you
one that
want
we
me
went
to
through the first
screenshot?
time.
Yeah.
Why don't we, if you have it with you, just
Yeah.
show it up. Because honestly, like the new one's gonna be like maybe
Yeah.
4 or 5 extra questions for micro business.
Yeah.
Not a
And
big
it's
deal.
kind of similar to like what
Yeah.
OCM is gonna look for, like with the security.
So for this part of it, we'll show you guys, since you might not have seen it before, what the application looks like by which the businesses that want to open up a micro business or a dispensary in our neighborhood will have to fill out. And will have to be publicly basically posted and discussed during the meeting. And if you wouldn't mind sharing too, if you could, I don't know what I would do without somebody in Carmen. I want, like, guys, I love
You
you.
need help. to
Sorry.
put your phone.
Yeah.
No, I need to like, be able to do the screen share. My bad.
There you go.
Hold on, let me just see. Hold on, child, let's. Okay.
You're slick with it. Nice.
Let me show that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking a lot. Do one of you guys want the spotlight to bring them through?
Okay.
You wanna
can
do
see
I
my-
don't, I think. I
Yeah.
with you.
Okay.
All right.
So I think the way that we framed it, just to Noble's point, points before are more on the requirements that OCM is going to be looking through, like these 9 buckets, like signage, et cetera, like foot traffic control and all of that. So I think here, the name of the establishment, if you're doing business as a different name, please list it. We have these different types of licenses here, and we've added the micro business. So we'll have some more probing questions for that. And those are the updates that are forthcoming. Here, the license number, if applicable, because reading through the regulations, not everyone has a license number, especially if it's a new applicant. All of this information on the location, business phone number, email address, the applicant name, all of those logistical pieces. And here we get to a little bit more of the probing questions on who's affiliated with the establishment. So just making sure there's a separation of the different licenses. So these are the next buckets of questions. So if there's any financial interest in any others, and if ownership, a cease and desist, any
PPI, yeah.
PPI. Yeah. Thank you. So I know here the addition of C, or the social and economic equity applicant, making sure we're tracking like the different types of applicants. And again, just a relisting if there's anyone submitting the application on your behalf, making sure we have that contact info as well.
And when we get to about the business portion, we just really want to make sure that we're understanding your intentions in the community. We just don't want anyone to just come to Washington Heights and be like, okay, we're just opening up, right? It can literally just be a business thing. And we understand that it's in some way a business thing, but we want to make sure that you're also invested and really understand how it impacts the community, but also add value to our neighborhood. And that's something that's really important. So this section just really goes into details about that. So just like sharing, what is your community engagement? Are you just someone that is moving here just to like open up a business, or do you have, knowledge of what's going on in Washington Heights? Are you from the neighborhood? Do you have family in the neighborhood, et cetera? Are there any stakeholders that you're like working with? Have you contacted the community board? If you maybe live in the area, have you been engaged with your neighborhood tenants association? Like really understanding how you're engaging with the community, and also sharing how will your business be a benefit to the community. So do you have any relationships and like partnerships that you do have in the neighborhood? So that's just, we really want to make sure that you're, if possible, like can elaborate on this and just not 1 or 2 questions so that we can get a feel. And obviously once you come before the board, we'll have an opportunity to kind of just like engage a little bit more. You can share with us, but we want to make sure that it's just not a business and that there's a little bit more to that. So that's
getting at identifying, just to add to what Carmen just stated, more getting at the identifying the need. So once we start getting a volume of applicants, making sure we're not duplicating the effort.
Yeah.
And
that's perfect.
And this brings up a really good point too. Volume. I'm glad you mentioned that word, because as we've seen with other community boards, CB9, for instance, they had 60 applicants. Like I think it was like they had 10?
Yeah.
Who's the one that had 60?
I don't know, but I asked.
I feel like there was,
This number came from Kathy.
I feel like there was a community board in Queens or something like that. Or
Somewhere.
Directly, she was like,
No. Well, maybe they got applications, maybe only 10 got through, maybe. I don't know.
Or is that what it was? It was downtown. It was,
It's probably one of those
CB2.
where there's like a.
yeah, that actually sounds right. I feel like
I've
we heard
seen
that
some
as
of
well.
their videos.
So
They're like,
at some point, we're gonna have to scale this process.
Yeah.
That was Brooklyn. Thank you, Deborah. Deborah Levine's here. Hey! One, come on down first Mondays every month, in person. We love it. I do tell folks I do bring a after meeting joint that we can share on the street together. Oh, you're a gem. Thank you. But look, yes. So at some point we're gonna have to scale this. We're going to be evolving this committee in the way that we review applications as demand comes. Again, this is a volunteer organization. I got 2 kids myself, 8 and 5. So, I'd love to be, home with them for dinner by 8. And so when it comes to those things, and say we get 60 applicants a month, we're going to have to figure out a way that we evolve, but to still do the business of the people in a way that respects the bandwidth of our members. So this is the very beginning of it. This is how we're doing it. But, I do want to make sure we reserve the right to kind of update the process. Thank you for mentioning volume there, Samari.
Yeah, and I think just to that point about volume, Nobles, all of these probing questions, because we won't get to everything on the application during our meeting. So I think we review this ahead of time. So that's why we ask so many questions. If you'll see, it's not so many, but so many probing, like to get a little bit deeper. And again, just since there is no lamp equivalent similar to like the SLA at this time, this is why we're just asking about the premises and the location and proximity to these different areas here.
And so really quickly, because I want to highlight this piece, because Tatiana, I hope you're still there.
Yes.
This part is the part that you were talking about, or a part of what you were talking about. This kind of gives the parameters specifically. Because remember, when they come in front of us with this business, they have to have the lease. Can you scroll up just a little bit? Because I think that was the first one. They have to have the lease for the place. And so when it comes to that, there are three, if you're looking at your screen, keep going down. There are three stipulations about the proximity. There are three stipulations that they need to meet. One, is it 200 feet within a place of worship? And I think that earlier there was also a historic landmark.
500 feet from a school.
Yes, 500, yeah.
Yep, that's the number 2. That one's called out specifically. But I thought that this also was supposed to cover historic landmarks, 200 feet. That was in the original version of it. I want to apply that to the update because that was asked for specifically by the executive committee.
Okay.
Cool. I remember that when we update this for micro businesses. Second, 500 feet within a school or youth facility. So that could be, PAL, the PALs, whatever. So that's 500 feet. And it is 1,000 feet from another micro business because unlike liquor company or other licenses, thank you so much. Our dispensaries, micro business, blah, 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 1,000 feet. Because what we also wanted to do was make sure that, unlike liquor businesses, we don't have one in every corner. And so, 1,000 feet, that's like one of the ones that I feel like we've done a great job looking after the community for this. Now, we will see, especially when it comes to Arielsa's mapping to, what we learn and market in terms of how real estate reacts to people that want to get a lease for marijuana businesses. If it seems restricting in that regard, we can evolve that. But for right now, it's 1,000 feet from another, licensed marijuana business. Thank you. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, and ultimately OCM will dictate the number of licenses that are approved and it's on, like the ownership is on their part to make sure the proximity is intact.
Yep.
Just putting it out there. Okay, and here are method of operations, just moving over on the application. I know in terms of us as a municipality, we're able to give a suggestion on hours of operation. So here we ask the first question, request the days and hours of operation. So just hinting to that. Entrances and exits have to be listed in the site plan, just making sure how everything is running there, making sure it's accessible. ADA compliant, the next one, the accessibility. And if it's not compliant, if the team is coming forward with a plan to make sure it's accessible. The capacity, this is similar to our liquor licensing application, where we ask more probing questions on the number of employees. And the next question here is limited consumption. Is there a rooftop, like the space that's being used? I know something reading through the regulation is the maintenance of the greenery outside, making sure no one can hide or, making sure it's upkept. So that was something that I was reading. I was like, okay. But just getting to more of what OCM is going to be looking at, especially again with the volume later on. So making sure we have all of that set in stone.
And for this piece here too, we wanted to make sure that we balanced, we balanced, I guess, like I don't want to say capitalism, but we balanced like the ability to run a business, but also respect the neighbors with the test and learnings and institutional knowledge that we have from the licensing committee for liquor. We've seen before liquor establishments become, cafe clubs, basically. We don't want that to happen when it comes to the dispensaries and micro businesses that open up in our area where it becomes, a smoke out on the sidewalk because we don't like, if these questions that we have here are going to give us a really good glimpse at, what type of business this is going to be. And then also, again, we don't want to stifle business could evolve in, if there is an outdoor cafe area with proper ventilation that, meet the requirements, that we have in here, we can certainly talk about having a marijuana cafe. We're not here to stifle business, but we are here to make sure that the public has all the necessary information. Wait, we making real-time additions?
No. I'm just putting it here for later.
I was going to say, so word, could you throw in the historical landmark
I
one?
did.
Thank you. So we want to make sure that we do good by the people, but also make sure that we don't stifle the business. That is what this section is all about.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, so like, and these are components that again, OCM is going to be looking at. I think the only one that I wanted to just tap into was the delivery. Because something reading through, is card licensees are able to have delivery if it's included in their training manual. So I just wanted to put that out there, just because it was on the FAQ, so I just.
Thank you for adding that. Man, delivery is gonna be such an amazing business that comes to our market.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that.
And I think similar to the liquor licensing, like crowd control, sound, odor, all of those are probing questions that are
Yep.
going to be looked at for the approval process. So that's kind of what these questions are getting at here.
And so this application, as we said before, needs to be received by the office 2 weeks before the review. And that would be, see, if we get it's because we get the application out before, right? Because I was gonna say, how does that work with the 60-day notice of meeting? But we get that out when we get the application out in the process, so we're good. But really, these questions here are good to give us a glimpse, but really the biggest conversation happens is in person when they come in front of the board, so they can take questions from the public. I see it time and time again. So if you are interested in marijuana businesses like coming to our community, I highly recommend being here when we review them. And that's not even the last step, because once they're reviewed by our committee and they get approved by our committee, it then goes to the general meeting. And in the general meeting, again, the 50 members, that happens once a month, just like with liquor. In the general meeting, our members will be voting on it as well. And then once that vote gets approved in the general meeting, which is also a forum for the public to speak, for the business owner to speak, once that gets approved, then it's fully approved by the community board, and they can let OCM know. So that's actually the fifth piece in the last four I was talking about in terms of the application process. So that's what we're looking at. Any questions? Pretty thorough. And we've gone over this.
Make one quick comment.
Yeah, please.
Just to note, this application may continue to get modified as we receive more information, as regulations change. So just want to make sure that people know, because they're just like, oh, this question wasn't there and now it's there. This is just kind of like to get an idea, but it may be updated.
I
And
saw that you guys
disclosure.
asked for identification of C applicants. Are you asking for folks to identify if they're card applicants as well? Because card applicants and C applicants are not the same. They meet similar criteria, but they're separate.
It's a card applicant.
A card applicant, a conditional adult use.
Yeah.
What's the card temper exactly? Conditional adult use. Thank you.
So people that are not C's.
So that was the first round of licenses that went out when we started a year ago, awarding licenses. They were awarding licenses to card applicants first, which are folks that were directly impacted by the war on drugs.
Right.
So
Those are the card applicants.
those are the card applicants. Those are the ones that were under the injunction with a pause, and then the general.
Oh, so then one of them is
application began, and then there's like a GA application, and then there's the C application, which is for folks who were economically disproportionate.
thank you.
Dude, so wow, that's really interesting. So card applicants are like the most like personalized because they were personally affected.
Right.
C is community
Yeah.
affected, and then general is just for
It's
Tom, Dick, and Harry LLC.
Exactly.
When did that level happen? Because I thought it was all C.
2022.
Yeah, card was
November.
first.
Wow.
Card was first, and then the general application got opened up in October.
Yeah.
And then they
Card
categorized that general application into
Like
two
August,
buckets.
right?
God bless our card holders. Damn. All right.
So.
Good. Well, actually, we had a question from Hannah here, I believe, asking how much does it cost to make a license? I don't know. What's the official cost to register with OCM and stuff? Not the gross, but like the net.
Velasco, do you know?
For every application. And then it depends if you wanna do a refill. If you're C, they give you 50%.
Right, so it's 5.
Oh, interesting.
So it's 1,000 if you're a C applicant, it's at 50% off, and then 50% of the application that is for retail is 7,000, so it would be 445.
Good.
And then for micro businesses, it depends on what you're doing.
Wow.
Because you have different tiers.
Interesting.
So it is 4, 5, and 7. So if you're going to cultivate on at least 35 square feet, 3,500, yeah, square feet, I was like,
Interesting.
it is 4,000 if it's up until 5,000 square feet of cultivation. It is 5,000, and if it's more than that, 10,000 up until 10,000 is 7.
So it's like a sliding scale. It's like a sliding scale upon the scale.
Correct.
And maybe type too when it comes to micro business.
But if you're a C applicant, everything's 50% of even the application.
That's great. Yo, I'm telling you, guys, I said this in the first meeting, I'll say this again. The law that we made in New York State is the most sophisticated, beautiful marijuana legalization law in the country. It is the biggest step in criminal justice reform we've taken as a state, maybe even as a country. And the way that we've set up the businesses in this legislation, one of the reasons why it's taken so long to roll it out, but it is worth it. Things like this were thought down to the nth degree, and I love that. God, I love New York. All right. So look, we just went through, yeah.
No, I was just gonna address like one question. Are the licenses only for shops on the street? Well, shops on the street are illegal. So
Yeah,
I shared the link in the chat if you'd like to like, follow up on any like enforcement, reporting, etc.
yes.
And then the second part of the question, or all business and cannabis products. So there's different buckets of licenses that'll be approved or that are forthcoming, but they're all brick and mortar, so they'll have a location.
Yep. And there was something also, the cost of licenses. Deborah, did you put that? Dude, Deborah Levine's in the house. Yeah, I think we already covered the cost of license. If you're gonna put it in there, it's kind of like a sliding scale, but it sounds like 1,000 for C and it goes up from that. But there was something that you just said, Simarty, that I want to make sure that we talk about. Oh, you just spoke to
If those
The
guys that-
enforcement?
enforcement. Let's talk about enforcement. Sorry.
No, I was
Yeah.
just saying, if those guys that wanted to become legal,
Mhm.
wanted to apply, they need to find another location. Shut down
Oh,
that
that is
location.
interesting.
Because
Good.
the enforcement is going to get worse these days.
Yep.
It's gonna be brutal.
Tatiana, you
And they're
hearing
go-
this?
They're going to, take all the product, burn it,
Mhm.
also take action on the landlord.
It's gonna get harder.
It's gonna get harder.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
harder.
damn.
So it's not just yet applying,
Yep.
but it will be happening.
Yeah.
Wow. So when it comes to enforcement, and let me know if I'm
When
sorry.
also they're going to get a misdemeanor aid if.
Wow.
As a-
Boy, get out of
Yeah,
that business. So
That
the,
happened last week, so I don't
so,
remember all of it.
so when it comes to that though, is OCM still the arbiter of enforcement or is NYPD involved?
Right now, it is DEA and FBI.
For
But they
real?
have to call 311, OCM call DEA.
And
And the sheriff's
Yeah.
department.
Correct.
And the sheriffs, that sounds like it would be in the mix too. Got it. Tatiana, I see you have your hand up. What's up?
Oh, no, I just wanted to, my question was, you just answered it about, all those shops that are now happening. Because we have worked so much talking to the DA's office, the district, the police in our district, and nothing much was done. So, and they were saying that they were
311.
waiting
I
on
think
the
that came
law.
out. Yeah.
And also with Senator Jackson, and trying to figure it out, and a lot of it was trying to figure out what the law was going to be. So I just wonder, when is that going to be enforced? Because our families have called 311.
Yeah. It's
And-
kind of like a wave. It's been a wave. It started in Lower Manhattan and it's
Yeah.
making its way up now. But also too, the legal marijuana dispensaries and micro businesses started in Lower Manhattan first and are making their way up now too. So it's kind of going with the legalization. As we were kind of saying before, as we get more legalized places, as Valeska just said a second ago, the penalties are going to get harder. And if these places, also just said a second ago, want to become legit, they have to close down their gray market area. So it sounds like a lot of backstops and enforcements that are coming. But the first step is to start doing the legal business of the board to be able to get there. So I'm saying probably within the next year, because I know it's already started in other areas last year, late in Q4 last year, like October plus, it'll probably be this year going to start seeing a much faster decrease in a lot of these places.
Yeah, they got their work cut out for them, Noble. So just so you know, I think throughout the state, they estimated between 5,000 to 8,000 illegal shops.
I believe it.
There's only 40 legal ones. So it's
Yep.
like you said, it's a balance of ramping up the legal ones and shutting them down.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, if a misdemeanor comes from it, people are probably going to shut down on their own
Yeah.
volition because ain't nobody going to mess with
I
that.
don't think
That's
they.
right.
They're gonna
Ah,
just yet, but
Right.
that's what is going to happen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll be charging with a misdemeanor.
Yep.
The product is gonna
Yeah, it's gonna destroy it. They're
Yeah, it's gonna
gone.
get destroyed and.
Look, we have a system for it now. It makes sense.
I'm wondering
Good.
what the city is doing just to communicate and like have messaging all over the neighborhoods to be like, there's a way that you can go legal, like, you don't have to do it this way. Like, I'm curious if any, one of you know
Well, that was
what the
like
city is doing for
what was
that.
brought up at the last meeting, like to inform like our local residents or
Like how you go legal.
prospective owners, right? Prospective owners.
Yeah, we're trying
Right. So there's Cannabis NYC, the agency that also works with, they're a small team,
Right.
tackling this entire city.
We
But
only
there is a
12.
lot of initiatives
Yeah.
that are being pushed out to help educate the communities, just there needs to be more. So like there
Good.
is like a good foundation, but it just needs to ramp up. And so maybe at the like more hyper local level, folks can take.
Maybe what we can do.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what that means. We're just going up to the corner like,
I mean,
hey.
right now, what we're doing is having an open forum for people to get educated on this.
Yeah.
Every week we got somebody new and, we're doing what we can. So awesome. I'll move the agenda because I usually like to try to get us out of here by 7:30.
Yeah.
So we talked about the application. We kind of talked about the update here and there too, in terms of updating it for micro business. We have that done. We will make sure to get you guys the current version of the application as well as the posting notice as well. Put that in there. The posting notice might come later because I'll build it myself specifically, but we can get you guys the application like that. We've kind of had an open discussion all meetings. So are there any other last pieces of new business questions? Anything anyone wants to bring up in front of the committee? There being none, I will call this meeting into adjournment then. Thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate your time.